Right, let's just begin by crossing over to Alan Ochana in Kakamega. Remember, yesterday was a big meeting between IBC and some of the gubernatorial candidates from those counties that were affected and suspended that particular election that now will be held on August the 29th. He's here to tell us more on what the reaction on the ground is. Alan Ochana, good morning. Well, grand overcast here in Nairobi, 19 degrees. I don't know how cold or maybe how hot is Kakamega.
Well, Dibal, good morning to you from Kakamega County. Yes, at least today is actually better off in terms of the weather here in Kakamega. But now in terms of the political happenings here, remember that the gubernatorial contest is yet to be actually carried out here in Kakamega by the IEBC. It was to happen on 9th. It never did. Remember, it was actually occasioned, the postponement was occasioned by the mishap. Of course, in the publishing of the ballot papers, there was actually a mishap where the photos and pictures of the candidates belonging to Kirinyaga County were found actually in the ballots in Kakamega County. And so with such an occurrence, it actually occasioned the postponement to 23rd, which actually it was supposed to be taking place today, actually this Tuesday, this present day. But it was postponed by the IBC chairperson of Fula Chebukati, really citing reasons like the prevailing environment, really saying the security and safety of his officers. Of course, the officers of the IEBC commission really at stake. And so, to that effect, really postponed. And so, the meeting yesterday at Bomas, yesterday Monday, arrived and just agreed on the final day, of course, next week on 5th, where they'll be carrying out that particular election. So, we are expecting that they'll be carrying out that election next week. Of course, not really 5th, but 29th. Sorry for that. On 29th, they'll be carrying out that election here in Kakamega County. But remember, the Kenya Kwanza candidate, that's actually Cleophas Malala, the outgoing senator, really raising reservations about the officials of the IEBC in Kakamega County, really saying he lacks confidence in the current officials, those who carried out the election on 9th. He really says he has no confidence in them and really needs a reshuffle. He says they should really do a reshuffle where he really needs that they should randomly even reshuffle them. Case in point, really saying they should even bring in officials from Kisumu or Uasin Gishu County to conduct the elections here. But remember that last week when we spoke to the returning officer in Kakamega County, Joseph Ayata, was really expressing his readiness to carry out the exercise here. But we have not really heard from the other candidates. But we understand that the ODM candidate, of course, the Azimio candidate, Fernandez Baraza, had indicated that had moved to court. And yesterday we saw the court had not really pronounced itself on the matter, but we are expecting that yes, they went to court and the court will be pronouncing itself. But we really do not, it's actually a matter of wait and see as to whether that pronouncement will be in sync with the decision by the IEBC to carry out that election on 29th of this month. And so Dibal, here in Kakamega is actually a tight contest between the Kenya Kwanza candidate Cleophas Malala and Azimio candidate Fernandez Baraza. Remember, as I've mentioned earlier, Cleophas Malala has raised reservations with, and of course, are really saying he has no confidence in the poll officials in Kakamega County and really needs a reshuffle. And so we shall also be speaking to some of their supporters, speaking to some of course, the candidates. Remember, it's a pool of 5. Cleophas Malala of Kenya Kwanza, Azimio's Fernandez Baraza. We also have an independent candidate, Michael Sundwa. We have UDP's Cyrus Jirongo, veteran politician here in Kakamega County. And also, KANU has a candidate here, Suleiman Sumba. And so we are expecting that on 29th, just like in Mombasa, they'll be battling out to succeed Governor Oparanya to actually steer this county. One of the 5 men will be really angling for that position to steer this county as the second governor of Kakamega County. Dibal.
Right, so on the Chanda, just given to understand that they had raised concerns before, 29th not being a public holiday, and they were really seeking for a public holiday because of concerns regarding the voter turnout. I wonder if this was something that was broached yesterday by IBC, if you're privy to that.
Well, Dibal, if you could just come again, because
right, I was just raising concern about that material day, the 29th. It's not really a public holiday. we had, the general election being gazetted as also a public holiday. And this is some of the concerns that we had from some of the candidates, that the voter turnout might not be as expected because it will not be a public holiday. Was that really broached yesterday?
Well, the issue of voter turnout, remember that on that material day on 9th, we had even the KEMS kits. In some of the polling stations, like 154 to be precise, in Kakamega County, 154 polling stations had their KEMS kits devices really failing. And so in some polling centers, like in Dangalasia, where presidential candidate Professor George Wajakoya voted, we had the first voter casting his vote at exactly 1 p.m. And so to that effect, some of the candidates were even claiming that that's actually by design to ensure they suppress the voter turnout, because the voting exercise began at 6 a.m. And so between 6 a.m. and 1 p.m. is actually like 6-7 hours. And so to that effect, most of the voters were actually really disillusioned and really went back home without partaking that exercise. And so also remember that on that material day on 29th, some of the candidates here were actually saying that it should actually be declared a public holiday. But really, that is actually really a lot to call for, according to some of them, really saying that that's isolated areas, 5 constituencies, including Rongai, in Nakuru, you remember that Mombasa County and also Kakamega County. And so those few areas might not really occasion a public holiday for the whole country, because of course sort of a by-election. So they'll be really concentrating on a small geographical area. And so some of the pundits, some of the candidates were really saying it cannot really necessitate a public holiday for the whole country, given that out of 47 counties, only 2 counties will be actually going to the ballot to elect their leaders in as far as the governor's position is concerned. The ballot.
And on the agenda, we had a question of the KEMS kit, yes, having failed. You've just given us a case in point with Professor Wajakoya, and it took a long time. This was a matter of concern from also the gubernatorial candidate, Cleophas Malala. He was fronting for the idea that if the polling stations will open at 6 a.m. and we have the KEMS kits failing, at least they should be very judicious and move on very quickly so that they can avert delays. At around 6:30, then they should revert to manual register. I don't know if that now is cast in stone. It has been agreed upon. This was his prayers. What do you know, briefly?
Well, Dibal, for the IEBC, of course, remember that even before the polling exercise on 9th, the Azimio team really went to court, pressuring the IEBC to ensure that once the KEMS kits really fail, of course, that KEMS kits, the electronic voter identification, was the first, of course, the first option. But the Azimio wing went to court, petitioning the court to allow for the usage of manual voter identification once the electronic voter identification system really fails. But on that material day, we were on ground. It took so long for the IEBC to communicate to their officers on ground, because officers on ground really depend on the apex decision-making body, of course, sitting in Nairobi, to just relay information and give them a green light. And so that really took so long. And now that the candidates have actually been beaten, and so twice, and so they are quite shy, of course, they are apprehensive of the situation and really fear that on that material day, should the KEMS kits fail, then they really want it to be resorted immediately to the manual voter identification. So that's actually quite genuine fears from the candidates, because falling back to that 9th of August, the relaying of information was quite slow. And so some voters, of course, a lot of voters were actually alienated from that particular exercise, because, of course, if the IEBC could take like 6 hours to allow for the manual voting, then some of them, especially the elderly who actually blessed the morning call, really were disillusioned and actually just went back minus voting. And so from the candidates, they really expressed their fears that on that particular day, should the KEMS kits really fail, then the IEBC should be quite magnanimous to ensure that they resort to manual voting, of course, that system of manual voting. So, of course, from the candidates here, it's quite genuine fears here. And so we are waiting. We shall be speaking to the county returning officer, Mr. Joseph Ayata, to just give us his brief as to whether the IEBC, their chairman, has given them the green light to actually just resort to manual voter identification, minus really consulting on the material day, because that really drags the whole process and really alienates most of the voters from partaking in the exercise. Dibal.
Many thanks indeed, Alan Ochane there. Just to keep up with the political beat, I want to just rope in Jeff, of course, also to tell us more on what is happening on the political diary this morning. Jeff Kirui, good morning, good to see you.
Well, very good morning, Dibal.
Yes, so far, what do we expect today?
Today, I think the better part of this week actually will be focusing on the Supreme Court of Kenya. And most of what will actually be happening there is regarding the petition that was filed by the Azimio la Umoja presidential candidate Raila Odinga, was accompanied by all the principals within that political party. And there are some 8 prayers actually that that petition involves, and it includes issues about an audit of the equipment that were used for this particular election. There are issues that the Azimio la Umoja presidential candidate are also seeking for a recount retally and then ultimately be announced the winner, if indeed that will turn out that he won that particular contest. And of course, there are also issues about the rejected and spoiled votes. Those are some of the prayers that are being sought by the Azimio side in the petition that will be before the 7th judge bench of the Supreme Court. And of course, the responses will be filed by the defendants, including IEBC and the Kenya Kwanza team in the course of this week. But of course, outside the petitions in court, there are also the issue about the consolidation by the president-elect, that is the Kenya Kwanza presidential candidate, and he has been consolidating members of parliament, perhaps to control the house, business of the house, as well as also that position of the speaker. Remember, when the members of parliament are sworn in, the first business of the house will actually be to elect the speaker, and they have fronted Bungoma Senator Moses Wetangula for that position. That means he will resign and then of course now go for that election to be elected for that position. The Azimio side is fronting Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, and as it stands now, the Kenya Kwanza is trying to consolidate numbers in parliament. They have actually managed to capture 10 independent candidates, and of course the entry of United Democratic Movement, that is Governor Robert's party, will also tilt the scale. So that is what will be happening in parliament this week. On Wednesday, tomorrow and Thursday, there will be orientation of all the new members. Before now, a gazette is given on when they will convene for the first meeting session, rather, to elect the Speaker of the House. Of course, that is something as well which will happen in the Senate. But of course, also next week we'll be focusing on the elections that are pending, the 4 constituency elections, as well as the 2 gubernatorial contests in Kakamega and Mombasa County. There was that meeting yesterday by the IEBC Commission, and there was consensus by all the candidates involved that they will be conducting that election on 29th. That is in Kakamega, Bungoma. For the members of parliament, there is Rongai. In Nakuru County, there is Kacheliba. There is Pokot South. Can't remember one exactly, but those are some of actually what we'll be focusing on next week. And they have been given the green light to continue campaigning at least until 48 hours to the polls as per the IEBC laws. Dibal.
Right, many thanks indeed, Jeff Kirui there. We shall be putting tails on that, of course, to get a full report also much later in the course of the day. Thank you. I want to rope in Kelvin Nyakundi right now. Also, we buckle down to some bit of business to hear what is happening. Kevin, what do you know this morning?
Been a crisis for a very long time, and we are now at 8.6 trillion shillings as per June 2022. So therefore we would like to be looking at, I'll actually be speaking to Churchill Ogutu, who is an economist on Business Cafe later on after this, just to debunk all this and look at how the trend has been over the years on the public debt, and also now relating it to the gross domestic product, which is also a very huge thing when it comes to looking at it economy-wise. So therefore we'll be looking at this, and also we'll be looking at boon for rice farmers in Thiba, in Thiba, where in Kirinyaga County, where Thiba Dam has now started to overflow. The 15.6 million dam has started to flow now to the Thiba River, and this project, the impounding of the dam started in May, and therefore it has started to overflow. This project was really put forward in order for it to help rice farmers, especially during a dry season, in order to help them just plant the rice, and therefore adding a very huge impact into the country, since rice is one of the many staple foods that we have. So therefore, this will help really rice farmers in Kirinyaga County to plant the rice. So therefore, this is what we have on the business front. We'll let you informed during the day. We'll be keeping you up to date, and also on other developments. Debal.
Right. And be sure to get more from Kevin Yukundi on Business Cafe right after this News Diary program. I want just to rope in Winfrey Owino as well to tell us more what is happening on social media. A lot of things that are on social media today. Winfrey, good to see you. Good morning. You can just begin by that particular very ticklish issue between Professor Wajakoya and his running mate, Justine Wamai, that they're not really seeing eye to eye. We saw yesterday a press briefing, or a press statement actually from him. What do you know?
Good morning, Dibal. Actually, so today we're going to start on a high note, literally.
Okay.
So the Roots Party of Kenya yesterday released a statement. They were calling their running mates in the August 9 elections for a disciplinary action. They say Justina had contradicted the constitution of the party, as well as dissociating herself with the party itself. So there are so many other allegations in terms of the party has funded her, and now she's doing this in terms of she's contradicting what the party stands for. And it even went to a point where they were saying she has not read and understood the party's constitution. So those were the allegations that were out there. They were calling her for a disciplinary action. But now Justina, later on, after some hours, she came out and she responded that she will not respond to pettiness. For her, according to her, she says that she's just airing out her opinions, and that should not really she should not brush shoulders with the party's regulations. So we'll see how that will shape up today as the events continue unraveling. Debal.
All right. What else do you know? You can just rattle through the list that you have, so that at least we can also use the time expeditiously.
Okay, so also on social media, people are also discussing John Githongo. He is the CEO of Inuka Kenya Nisisi. That's a civil society group. It basically deals with human rights stuff. So he has written an affidavit to the Supreme Court. He's asking for the judges to allow him produce a video recording of a whistleblower, someone who claims he was part of 56 people who were hired to manipulate the presidential results. There were 10 hackers and 46 others who are doing the manual work. It's quite an allegation. So we'll see how the Supreme Court will respond to that, as well as the respondents. Now this is the IBC and now the president-elect. But people are really discussing that, considering now one person comes out to say, I was part of a group that was mandated with the task of manipulating the votes. So we'll also see how that will come out and shape up, if these allegations can be proved, if there is enough evidence to support the allegations in court. So we'll also see that. Another thing that also came up last night, and it really trended, it's a court decision on the HELB loan. It's a decision that was made by a Nairobi High Court, and it was delivered last week. Apparently it came to light last week. You know, last week, people were so concentrated on election, whether there'll be a petition, the results, the tension and all that. So it's yesterday that the lawyers who are on the case brought it to light on Twitter, and they brought out the issue that HELB loans, it doubles the interests and the fines to a point that it gets to more than the principal amount that the beneficiary got. So they argued that is punitive to the beneficiaries and all that, and now the court gave a ruling, a verdict, that now the move by HELB loans to have the interests and the fines doubled really is unconstitutional. So we'll see how it move on, if the Higher Education Loans Board will appeal the decision. We'll see how that will also come out. And to a sad story that came to the attention of our newsroom last night, the returning officer of Gishugu constituency in Kirinyaga County passed on last evening. He was called Geoffrey Gitobu. As of now, we don't really have final details finer details in relation to his death, but what we know is that he collapsed and was pronounced dead on arrival at the hospital. So according to our correspondents, they say he went home over the weekend in Nanyuki to visit the family, but then when he came back, he was supposed to report back to work tomorrow on Wednesday. So the unfortunate happened and we lost that life. We send our condolences to the family and the colleagues and everybody else at IBC. It's really a trying time. There's quite a discussion. Now people are wondering what's really happening to these returning officers. And other young people also saying now we'll not be applying for this job in as much as we are unemployed, but we'll not be going for jobs that really put our lives at risk if that is the case. Remember, we also had another returning officer who went missing and was found dead in Oloitoktok. So it is a developing story. We can't really say authoritatively what happened to cause the death, but we'll see to that after maybe an autopsy is done and the medics pronounce themselves on that debate. That's what we have making the top trends this morning.
Indeed. And as you've mentioned, yes, our deepest condolences also and sincere sympathy for the family. Thank you, Winfrey. I really do appreciate it. That's all she wrote this morning. Thank you for your valid company. Of course, we are looking forward to subsequent bulletins where we'll have full reports of these stories later in the day. Thank you for your valid company.